Welcome, everyone. Karma is out to get you. In recent years, as well as the proliferation of stupid thoughts in occultism in particular, and the world in general, which seems to be getting more controlled and more ignorant, there's been a great push by so many particularly Black Lodge negative people, that there is no such thing as karma. I've been hearing this for years and years. This is part of the Luciferian negative control factor criminal activity that is being pushed upon people yet again. Yet time and time again, it has been proven that there is actual karma. Now, this goes back to many religious traditions where you, even throughout the West, where people who have done things pay the price for it eventually. And the whole idea is that people think that for some reason that people who are evil don't get their evil delivered directly back to them within this time frame, that that karma is non-existent. Well, this is a convenient thing that allows rotten people to feel even better because there's no price to pay. Well, let me assure everyone out there certainly is a price to pay. Now, whether it comes back to you in this life or not is unimportant ultimately, as this is just a tiny blip of life in terms of number of years. Those people who have created massive problems usually in the end pay for that. Of course, some escape, but even if we look at regular society, those people who've committed terrible things generally get caught somewhat. This is changing in the last few years, I should say the last 10 years, because of the total lack of justice and corruption in this reality right now. So things are much worse than they ever have been when it comes to that because of the high level of corruption that now goes down to the average person, which in the past was not really involved in corruption as much as the middle level and higher up. Well, that's all changed. Now it's right down to the average person is participating in the huge amount of corruption that's going on. And as such, things got worse and worse. As a matter of fact, they embrace it because they're getting paid. And of course, they make sure they keep salaries low, so they keep you in that trap. Now, regardless of all that, there has been many, many studies conducted on what they call near-death experiences. And these have been done by the thousands, done consistently. And there's just like with reincarnation, there are endless proof of afterlife, reincarnation, etc. This is not incidental proof. This isn't maybes. This is 100% factual proof that we know this is a reality. The research is there, even with the very low amount of funding. There are dedicated people that are fascinated by this, who really do have some sort of soul, and who look into these things other than the soulless Black Lodge evil people who want to conveniently not believe in a heaven or a hell, or that they ever have to pay for anything. So you act as you want and you get away with things. And of course, as we've seen throughout the ages, this is true somewhat, and of course in recent times much further, because of the corruption, and these people are well aware that the good people will eventually seek them out, and they make sure that they carefully watch everyone and use their government murderers, whether either that's the police or the military, to take out those proud, strong people that want to fight back. Now, getting into karma, it's been, these studies, as I said, have gone on, and all these studies are suppressed, even though, like everything else in life, if you really want to look into it, there are many books on the subject. There are many researchers who have went into this. There are interviews that is that you can find on YouTube, particularly by Jeffrey Mishlove. But there are others on there as well that talk about near-death experiences, and we highly recommend you listen to these and get the facts of how all that works. But what they've shown from one person after another, regardless of their religious beliefs, some are totally non-religious people that have these experiences. Other ones are religious as well. And, a lot of things, while fall into some general understanding that we have, you must remember they're not, quote, religion. There are universal understandings that mankind have that religion, like so many domination systems, has hung on to and claimed it to be their own. Well, what's further been proved is that people who have these near-death experiences have the classic thing that most people have talked about throughout life, and that people, have you seen your life flash in front of you? Now, this was something that was commonly talked about all the time, and from the general discussions of people who had close encounters with death. Now, a near-death experience, which I'm not going to go into here right now, is much more complicated than coming close to death, almost being hit by a train, being in a plane crash, etc. Well, that's not really a near-death experience. We're talking about people that actually die for a short period of time and then come back to life. Being close to death, getting an operation, almost dying from a disease. These are not near-death experiences, even though these things should teach you the same as something radical like that. And as a person who hasn't went through radical things but was a high-level consciousness person, I didn't need to go through a near-death experience to understand or get something. I don't need to take hallucinogens to see some fake world produced by my brain. I understand through the path of being connected to my higher self, your higher consciousness, your inner magical being, of what's right and what works. And to think that when looking at a flame of a fire, you can't say to yourself that, hey, everything tells me that fire is going to burn me if I put my hand in there. But somehow there's some purity or wonder about it when you have basically a retarded person, a stupid spiritual seeker, who puts his hand in the fire and is traumatized by it. I learned so much from burning my hand off. I now see the other side. What garbage is that? That's stupid garbage, and you have to really wonder if stupid people can really interpret spiritual happenings that are radical with any level past, hey, well, I saw funny things. So the whole idea is that all that, as far as I'm concerned, is imbecilic spiritualism. If you're a spiritual person working out of your consciousness, you see the world, you experience the trauma of it, and you don't have to have the trauma of it, of being in a war or living on the street, the trauma of life in general. And I think people who are more grasping on to basic realities, who are not necessarily going through horrible hardships. But the horrible hardship is being close to having a good life, seeing what other people are doing, and being robbed of that for one reason or another because of incompetent, stupid parents, systems that abuse you, etc. So I think a lot can be learned from the higher consciousness experience. So to think that you have to stick your hand in the fire and get horribly burnt to understand the reality of that, I think is childish. But what we've learned through all these experiences, which again have been documented by the hundreds and hundreds by many different people from many walks of life, is that people go through this near-death experience, and it's not just this nonsense you've heard about of going through the light and seeing tunnels. Some of that happens, some of it doesn't. That's really not the important part of a near-death experience. Again, that's the Mickey Mouse comic book world that's been foisted upon you to put you in an illusionary state. What really has happened with all of these researchers who had a proper near-death experience is that they did see everything that happened in their life intimately. Every second of their life was relived. What's very interesting is that the people who did very negative things, that beat up people, killed them, etc., felt the same pain as their victims throughout this entire process. Very, very fascinating. So, they experienced all this trauma and pain, and as such, went through a very traumatic understanding of how all these energies were coming back to this person and how they were getting their karma. Because in the end, people, remember that karma is going to get you. And it's critical that you understand that. So, this has been shown time and time again from religious people, non-religious people, that the experiences and the negativity that you do in your life is going to be brought back upon you, and you're going to feel the same pain and misery that your victims felt. If you torture or hurt others, you're going to feel that same problem. You also move into an appropriate new life, as the reincarnation cycle is, which will teach you, if you were a negative person, to change your ways. This is how it all works, as we're going to the point where this is getting to be proof, or is proof scientifically, that this is a reality, just like reincarnation has been proved time and time again with hundreds and hundreds of people from all walks of life. From those who are educated, those who are uneducated, even children that don't have the same perspective of life, have been able to trace back to all of these different experiences. So, if you're living in the fantasy world that there is no karma and it's all great to be a rotten scumbucket, hurt everybody else, and buy into the system, because that's what they want you to do, and that's how they control you, and that's how you're feeding the corrupt system by being part of the corrupt system, because you don't have the courage to stand up against it. And that includes all these fake people and their fake religions who work with criminals against you because they're under pressure. Because they are cowards, and they follow a coward's religion who decided that it was good to die instead of fight. So, all of the reality that is told you from the fake reality that is told to you by the masses of buffoonish idiots that populate this planet, and are spouting their self-appointed expert opinions about how karma doesn't exist, and demons are your friend, and hemlock is a great drink, and all the other things that they like to tell you. You're being misled, and you need to understand that there is greater truths. These greater truths are not hidden. You have to seek them out instead of seeking out the fast food pop reality of listening to some idiot talk about demons and how wonderful their pathetic little life is, living in a trailer in Ohio or in a shack in Utah, as most of these loser types that perpetrate these realities, particularly in the public, is pathetic. And remember, in the end, there is no escaping karma. It's after you, it's going to get you, and the better you act now to your fellow man, as has been preached for tens of thousands of years, actually going back probably millions of years, is everyone really wants to be treated the same. You treat someone else like you want to be treated, and that's fair and caring. And you want to have the opportunity to reach what you desire in life. We all want this, and we all need to treat each other. And even though these are talked about as kind of nonsensical garbage commandments in the goofball latest religions, these are principles that go back tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years to the great societies of Atlantis and others. So understand, it is real. Now remember, everyone, you want to hear more exciting talks like this, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Make sure you like this video. And always go to our website where there's going to be lots of other fascinating information and the secrets of all time, which will assist you in practical ways to achieve your desires in life. It's all there. All you've got to do is go to our website.